Hi, and thank you very much for your support of the Spirit's Voice. I really appreciate it. Why did I call this the Spirit's Voice? Because what I share with you here is just stuff the Spirit's sharing with me. I'm not like an ordained preacher or whatever. I'm just a regular dude. So there you go. But I'm a regular dude who loves the Lord and reads the Bible and like that. So I just wanted to share with you what I was reading this morning. First of all, I feel super blessed that I can sit at the round table here. We have this round table. We call it the round table. I don't know what the heck. I figure, King Arthur had one. My wife got it for free. She found it on OfferUp. And it's got these nice tile top on it and like that. And I've got a bunch of tiles to replace. But anyway, this is my little spot to come out here, read my Bible in the morning or whenever I want. And sit quietly. Sometimes the neighbors walk by and like that. And it's been raining like crazy because we're in San Diego County, California, and Southern California's been deluged by rain. And so it's been a blessing the last few days. I've been able to come out here, read my Bible again. So anyway, what am I rambling on about? I apologize. I was reading this morning. I decided to start again and read the Bible cover to cover. I was led to do that, or just maybe I just felt like it or whatever. I don't know. But in any case, I went to Genesis. And yesterday I read in Genesis a little bit, and I was studying it out this morning. I was reading in Genesis 2, which after you get to about 2 verse 4, I guess B, halfway through it, you leave the account of the creation of the heavens and the earth in the 6 days, and then you get into the 6th day and more detail about the 6th day, what happened on that day. And I'm reading here about God's conversation with the man, with Adam. And Adam simply means dirt man, basically. Man of earth, earth man. So we're all made of dirt. So he was called dirt man. Maybe you need a big cape with a D that says dirt man. I don't know. But anyway, that's what Adam means, is dirt man. So in chapter 2, verse 15, the Lord God took the man. So he made him someplace else, and he took him, and he put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And the Lord God commanded the man, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you do, if you eat of it, you will surely die. Now we know the story that later on, the serpent's talking to Eve and kind of saying, well, you won't surely die. Just God doesn't want you to know stuff. And so it's really okay. You won't die. You'll just be like him. You'll be like God if you know that stuff. And so he talks her into eating the apple or the fruit. We call it an apple. It wasn't really an apple. But taking a bite of the fruit and eating from the tree. And then she talks Adam into it. And of course, God confronts them both and confronts Adam, and he says, but this woman you gave me, because he's trying to blame shift. The first example of blame shifting, but this woman. And Moses is pretty good at blame shifting at the beginning as well. We see a lot of that in the Bible. But what I was thinking about it this morning, and that is, so I'll tell you a little story. I always want to say, I'll tell you a little story about a man named Jed. But that's the Beverly Hillbillies, so I'm not going to do it. Tell you a little story about this guy, this joker who's talking to you right now. Where I grew up kind of in a more country setting than here. This is not really much of a country setting. This is a suburban setting. But I grew up out in the boonies a little bit, around farms and like that, and that's what really appeals to me. I'm kind of a little bit of farmer at heart, I think. And I would love to, when I was younger, have bought some land and homesteaded it and like that. That would have been just absolutely peachy as far as I was concerned. And so a few years back we bought some land in Arizona in the White Mountains, almost 40 acres. And it's border state trust land, and there's elk and there's deer and there's antelope. I realize antelope are stinky and people don't want to hunt them, but nevertheless there's antelope. There's all kinds of game up there. It's a forested property. It's beautiful. And I was in tears when we bought it, because all of my life I've wanted to have a property like that. And I thought, I have to admit, not so secretly, that I thought, well, maybe we could sell the stuff we have in California and we could move out there at some point, build a house, and live out there. And we could homestead that land, because it's a lot of land. You could do a lot of things with it. I'd love to have a big workshop, all the things I would love to have. And then, of course, I have a gun-related YouTube channel, and I see these guys who have their own land. They're in states that aren't restrictive, like California is, where they can have their own range. They can have their own pistol range. They have their own rifle range. They can go out and shoot video anytime they want by just going out the back porch or whatever. I could do that there if we moved there. Wouldn't that be cool? All the things that we could do if we moved there would be really, really neato, and I would love it, I think. But then, we had lots of stuff going on in our family, with lots of responsibility. Many, many things, like many people have, kept us here and anchored us here in California. And I love California. I don't have a problem with California. I don't like the politics and some of the woke culture drives me kind of kooky, and I certainly don't like the gun restrictions and the high taxes and the high cost of living and all that. But it's a beautiful place to live other than that, and I really don't mind living in the suburbs too much. And if we're going to live in the suburbs, where we live is beautiful. There's no crime here. The neighbors are all very nice. We know them, they know us. We have a nice house, we have a nice place to live. Nothing for me to complain about it. It just isn't really what I wanted. And then I turned, 65, and so I'm a senior citizen now, and maybe I don't want to be out in the boonies, because in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, if I live that long, I'm going to want to be closer to the doctor. And if we lived out at our property, it would be 20 some odd miles down the road, away from, just down the county road, and then even from there, once you hit the highway, you're another 40 minutes from town, well, not from town, but from any kind of medical facility that has any significance. And this is the stuff people reminded me of. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is, I'm probably never going to live on that property. I'm going to get to go hunt on it. I'm going to go enjoy it, I hope, as much as possible, but I won't get to live there. Well, here's the problem with that way of thinking. This is what I think got Adam and what got Eve. They were given a beautiful place to live. They were given everything they needed. They had food, they had water, they had beautiful surroundings. They had God walking with them in the garden every day. How cool would that be? To actually go for a walk with God. Now, I go for a walk and I feel like I'm spending time with God, but he's not right there physically, he's right there. That would be really cool. That would be amazing. Super humbling, but it'd be very amazing. Well, they got to do that. I never get to do that. And this is all, they had everything. When you think about heaven, what do you think about? You think about you're going to be with God. You're going to be with God in a beautiful place. Well, that was Eden. But for them, it wasn't enough. Oh no. They had to have that one thing that God told them wasn't good for them. They had to do it. Had to. And they had some crumb bum liar. Bible says he's the father of lies. Come in and lie to him and say, no, it'll be okay. He just doesn't want you to know this. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can do it. And rather than listen to God, and because of their desire to have more, always more, something else, the grass is always greener on the other side of the hill. They couldn't be grateful and content with what they had, so they opted to go get something else, and they ended up losing everything. Not just for themselves, but for us. Because as all died through the one man, our Bible tells us, which is Adam, dirt man, so all will live through the one man, the second Adam, our Bible tells us, which is Jesus the Christ, the Messiah. But I was thinking about contentment today because of this, what I was reading. And so, it's interesting looking in Hebrews chapter 13, starting in verse 1 down to about, I think, 6 or 7 probably. He's talking about all kinds of things. These are concluding He's concluding his remarks as far as being disciplined and living a disciplined life and living a holy life and so on. And he says, keep on loving each other as brothers. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering. He goes on and he says in verse 4, marriage should be honored by all and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. And in verse 5 he says, keep yourselves, the page turned just at that moment, let's do this. He says, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. So we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Well, I'm going to tell you something. I've changed my way of thinking where that property is concerned. I'm grateful that we have it. It was a blessing from God. It still is. I'm not going to get to live there, and I can sit around and pine away and be upset about that forever. It's not going to matter. It's not going to change anything, except that it just make me miserable. Or I can use it to the Lord's benefit. I can have some hunting trips and invite some folks who maybe need to know about the Lord and build friendships with my friends at church and deepen our relationships. I can use it for that. I can use it for junkets, if you want to call it that, to the outdoors, which I love. Take my son, take my kids, take my grandchildren. My wife and I can go out there and spend some great time. But where I live is where God put me. And I think I need to remember that God chooses when a man will live and where he'll live, and then I get to, like a flower, I get to bloom where I'm planted, not uproot myself and go plant myself someplace God didn't plant me. So here, because I am of the sort of farm ilk, you know what an ilk is, right? No, it's not an elk, it's an elk of the farm ilk. I've started a garden here and got tomatoes growing and, I don't know, broccoli, 2 or 3 different kinds of broccoli and spinach, and I'm trying to think of what else I've planted and trying to find unique ways to do that, starting an herb garden and really enjoying where we live. We live in the suburbs. Our lot is decent size. It's not huge, but it's not small. And so God has blessed me with the space to do those kind of things. My garage is a great shop. It's not huge. It's not the 40-foot wide, 40-foot deep shop with the 10-foot ceilings. I would love to have some steel building or something out there in the boonies where I can pull a tractor into it and I can do different things. I can't do that. But I do have room to do things, build things. I have room for my tools. I have all my carpentry tools. And so my wife and I have talked about this house, this place, being our homestead. And we're homesteading our house in the suburbs, which has actually been kind of cool and fun. It's on a smaller scale. And, you know, while we can have chickens, we're not going to be having goats and like that. I can't look out the back door and knock down a deer with my rifle during deer season. There's things like that I can't do. And I'm in California where it restricts me a lot for a lot of things, and I get that. But there are worse places to live than San Diego, California, okay? People travel here. I know, I've lived here a long time. People travel here from around the world to go on vacation because of the weather. This tourism is a big deal here because I see people from every country on the earth come here. And we live here, so we get to do things here. So I think changing my perspective and being content with the blessings God has blessed me with, looking around me and not seeing, oh gee, this isn't what I want, or gee, this isn't what or looking at somebody else and going, well, he's got this and he's got that, and why don't I have this? That just makes you miserable. And you miss the glorious things that are right in front of you. Like this table we got for free. I love this table and these stupid plastic chairs. I sit out here with my Bible and I have a great time with God. And it's peaceful and it's quiet, and the weather is nice here so often that I can actually sit outside and do that. I can go down to Santee Lakes and I can fish for $6 because I'm a senior. I can fish all day. Take my 12-volt refrigerator with me, pack up the truck. My friends come out there, we'll spend all day just drowning bait. I don't even care if I catch anything, okay? But they do stock the lakes on a regular basis. If I were out near Show Low, I'd probably go to Lyman Lake, but it'd be the same thing. I'd just be going to a different lake. If I want to go to the beach, I can go to the beach, I can go to the lake, and I can go to the mountains, and I can go to the desert all in the same day because of where I live. Where do I have to go to work? Well, first of all, I'm retired for all intents and purposes. What's my job? I run Practical Defense Systems, which is pretty simple because it's a mom and pop shop that my wife and I own, and I'm the primary instructor. I do have a couple of others, but mostly it's me. Mostly it's online. The classes we do teach, I teach at our little office over in Mission Valley, which is about 15 minutes from me. And then I go to the range, which is about 20 minutes from me. And other than that, I'll go shoot video up there at Bill and Dana Matola's place, at Matola Ranch. They're kind enough to let me do that, and that's just a joy to drive out there. It might take me a half hour, and I don't care, and they let me shoot at their range. What a blessing. They are the neatest people, and I love them. If you ever get a chance to go out to Matola Ranch, I urge you to do that. Where else? I got to take care of our rental properties. Well, that's 20 minutes one way toward the beach, and an hour and a half for another one out there to El Centro, which means if I just time it right, I can go out there and deal with it, plus I can drive the extra hour, go out to Yuma, go to the Adair Range, and go shooting. So yeah, there's some driving involved. Yeah, there's some additional cost involved, and no, it's not as easy on me as a gun channel running creator on social media, but it can still be done, and I still live in a beautiful place. So I think what I've changed is now I've started changing my perspective. I'm looking for the blessings, not where in my mind things fall short of what I hoped for, what I wanted or whatever, because God's plan is bigger than my plan. His thoughts are not my thoughts. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. His ways are not my ways. His ways are higher than my ways. And his ways are always right because he knows best. So if he's got me here instead of where I think I want to be, then here is the best place for me to be. And here's where this gets challenging for gun owners. And again, I know that because we own Practical Defense Systems. I teach classes for the Sheriff's Department, the concealed carry course. I teach for other things, and then I have GunGuyTV. Gun owners in California, I constantly hear the lament, California is this, California is that, California is the other thing. Well, if you're watching this channel and you're lamenting that it's cost too much to live here, it's too hard to live here, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing, you'd be right. You're right. But you're making yourself miserable. Particularly if you feel stuck here, okay? Now you're really making yourself miserable. Instead of being stuck here in your mind, maybe take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And then start looking for the positive things where you live. Start seeing where you can live differently and enjoy where you live and enjoy the parts of where you live, even if you live where you don't really want to be. You'd rather be someplace else. You know, the wonderful, incredible philosopher Colonel Potter from the old TV show MASH in an episode once said, "If you ain't where you are, you're no place." He described the fact that he had been in the military, the character. He says he'd been in the military 40 years, and in that 40 years, he'd only been home a year or two. And so for the first 20 or 30 years, he made himself miserable, pining away, wanting to be home. Until one day he realized that if he wasn't where he was just making himself miserable. So he just needed to be where he was and make himself happy there. And that's when he said, if you ain't where you are, you're no place. That stuck with me. And today it has really affected me in a positive way. So I wanted to share it with you. If you ain't where you are, you're no place. And wherever you are, it is precisely where God has put you at this time. Use it for Him and glorify Him in it. And if your focus is that, then all the other stuff really doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you very much for watching The Spirit's Voice. If this doesn't make any sense, let me know in the comments. If you think it does make sense and it might help somebody else, please like the video, share the video. These videos are for you and for whoever else they might help. All I'm doing is sharing what I'm learning in life. And if it's whacked, then let me know. But if I'm on point, well, maybe somebody else could benefit from it too. Thank you again for all of your support. I hope God blesses you everywhere, all the time, and I'll see you in the next video.